And today we're just going to talk briefly about our case study. So we attended the conference, the workshop last year, and we identified the invasive tree Casuarina as our #1 problem, our #1 invasive flora species in the Bahamas. And the Bahamas National Invasive Species Strategy has identified that as such. So our island, so first of all, the Bahamas. If you aren't familiar with the Bahamas, we are a beautiful archipelago sitting right next to Florida, a chain of islands, the most beautiful waters in the Caribbean. And in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera is where our pilot's study occurred at the Governor's Harbor Airport. So the test site that we used was 1 hectare. The entire property is about 104 hectares. If you visit Eleuthera or any of the islands in the Bahamas, you will notice that Casuarina is definitely a problem. It litters our coastlines, it discourages native vegetation from growing, it encourages coastal erosion. And so for our purposes here, we really need to find a strategy on how to manage this invasive flora. And so we came up with 4 management species. The first management options. The first is to do nothing, which we've basically been doing, and it hasn't been working. The second one is the public-private partnership, which would be with the government of the Bahamas and the private sector. The third, a more of an education program. You know, if you educate people, then maybe they will do their best to help eradicate the problem. And then an integrated approach, which would be a little bit of education, a little bit of public-private partnership. Oh yeah, so Casuarina, just to talk to you briefly about it, if you're not familiar with it. It's a very aggressive tree. It loves to grow in disturbed areas. It is native to Australia. It's known as the Australian pine or beefwood. And it, as I said, it discourages native vegetation. By its growth habit, it sheds lots of these needles, which prevent seed germination. Its roots are allelopathic, so it secretes chemicals to discourage seed germination. Its roots are very shallow, so it doesn't hold the soil well. So during storms, the coastline gets eroded severely, and those plants, which naturally would hold the sand dune together, do not grow there, so we constantly lose our shorelines. Very prolific cedar, all over the place in the Bahamas. I really dislike it very much. So here we are. So I enjoy cutting down Casuarina. So as a part of this project, I was the muscle, she's the brain. And so this is us at our test site at the Governor's Harbor Airport. And me and my crew of guys, we took pleasure in going out there and clearing down the 1 hectare plot. This was an easy stand of trees to work with. Casuarina trees can get very large. And for our purposes, for this study, we decided to work with this area because of its density and the tree size, because once the trees get larger, your method of extraction has to change. You have to bring in cranes and tractors and really large vehicles to remove the trees. So we had about a DBH of 6 inches that we work with for our trees. And in our test plot, we had about 637 stems for that hectare. And we went in and we removed as much Casuarina as we could, as we found every single one. We pulled them up, cut them down, and then we produce wood chip. So at the Levy Preserve in Governor's Harbor, we have a chipper, and in my other presentation later on in the week, you will see some of the products we were able to obtain from the Casuarina tree. Some of the tools we use for this are chainsaws, cutlasses, gloves. You know, we consider the cost of fuel, time to hire men. Let's go next.
Okay, thank you, Mark. An integral part of this process was designing 2 questionnaires because we needed to get the community buy-in to find out their views on how Casuarina affects the economy and also a little bit about their general knowledge of the tree. So we surveyed 80 residents out of, say, a population of maybe 2,000 to 3,000 in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera. The questionnaire was broken down into 2 parts, general knowledge and then economics of the tree. And 2 questionnaires were done. One that targeted just a regular resident of Governor's Harbor, and then the other questionnaire, a community questionnaire, targeted a more informed populace. So the people from the NGO community, the public utilities, corporation workers, the farmers, people like that. And an interesting trend emerged during the individual questionnaire. That's the one where we just target the regular residents. So we found two groups. One group that believed that Casuarina could be controlled, so we call them the believers. And they gave us a lot of interesting points. So 77% felt that the tree served a purpose. 66% felt that the existence of this tree could impact the country's economy. 57% felt it could negatively impact the economy. 79% felt that the government should be responsible for controlling the tree. 49% felt the integrated approach to managing and controlling Casuarina would work best. 50% of residents indicated that they would not support the use of taxpayers' dollars to manage Casuarina. 63% felt households would not be willing to pay a small fee towards controlling and managing Casuarina. 73% felt the government should provide an incentive for households desirous of assisting in Casuarina control/management. And 65% said that they would not assist in the physical removal of the tree. Sorry, would assist. And then this other group that emerged, the naysayers/the sinners. So 63% felt that the tree served a purpose. 58% felt that it could not affect a country's economy. 64% felt it could affect a country's economy positively. 83% indicated that they would not assist in the physical removal of the tree. And what was very interesting about this group was a little bit older. We didn't plan it that way, that just sort of happened. And we found that they had already bonded with the tree because most of them could peg the tree towards some kind of social activity that they had under that tree. So for example, a barbecue or a beach picnic back in the day. So they were a little bit more older and a little bit more stuck in their ways. They didn't want us to touch the tree, leave the tree alone. I love this tree. But the younger population, which was that other group, they felt as if, yeah, they were a more informed, educated audience, so they felt as if the tree could be removed. And as a result of the survey and then the costing work that Mark had done at the case study area, we plugged all of those numbers into the toolkit provided by Landcare, and we came up with our benefits and our costs. So the benefits in this instance would be avoided damages to utility and road infrastructure because the Casuarina tree, the roots grow horizontally, so eventually they will go under your roads and protrude. And also it contributes to beach erosion. And so all of these things, when you place them in the benefits, that's money saved, essentially. And also the sale from utilizing the Casuarina into some kind of product, so charcoal, mulch, that sort of thing. So costing, labor, initial capital costs will obviously be higher in that first year because you're buying more equipment, like you're buying a bulldozer, you're buying a chainsaws, that sort of thing. Research and monitoring also has a cost because you have to pay people to go there, remove this tree, and go there periodically as well. Ad campaigns, newspaper, radio, television, all of those things cost money. Invasive species population. So we figured it would take an S-curve shape, and obviously if you're doing nothing, your population is going to increase over time. So we pegged carrying capacity to about 10,000, because initially we started out with 637 stems per hectare, and you would reach carrying capacity probably somewhere between years 15 and 20. Okay, and monetary damages from invasive species per dollar per year. Once again, you're doing nothing. You're going to spend roughly about $300,000 around year 15, year 20. So it's going to be an expensive project just to do nothing, which is why some management intervention is needed. So we look at this slide, and we think of this slide in terms of its monetary benefits from avoided damages. So think of this in terms of money saved. So if you're doing something, you can save that $300,000. And then we look at this one, and you can see that when you look at your graphs, okay, for example, look at that blue one. That's your highest cost, so it's going to be, out of the three management options presented, so the integrated management is going to cost you the most money. But the lowest cost is going to be the government-led PR campaign. And if you think about it, that sort of makes sense because you're going to be paying for the media campaign, the newspaper ads, the radio advertisements, the television advertisements, and this is money spent annually, okay? Cost effectiveness. So we all like a bargain, right? And when you look at the screen, you see the public-private partnership of search and destroy is only $49. Okay, so that's going to be your cheapest option, the most cost-effective management option presented, followed by the government-led public awareness campaign and the integrated management approach coming in third. This is our net present value. So when we think of net present value, we're thinking about the value over the lifetime of the project and benefit to cost ratio. So essentially, for every dollar spent, you would get $20 back for the government, $20.50 back for the government-led public awareness campaign. For every dollar spent, you would get $17.70 back in benefits for the public-private partnership, and the integrated management approach. For every dollar spent, you get $10.70 back. So that works out to be a lot of money over the lifetime of your project. And then we look at net present value. You take those results, you multiply them, and you get a savings of about $3.2 million over the lifespan of your project for the public-private partnership. And for the government-led public awareness campaign, we're looking at about 3.19 mil, and the integrated management approach, so 3.16. So think of net present value once again, lifetime over the long term of your project. Okay? So interesting conclusions. Once again, a summary of all of those graphs. So public-private partnership is going to yield your highest net present value. Second and third was the government-led public education campaign and integrated management approach, respectively. The highest benefit to cost ratio was achieved with the government-led public education campaign, with second and third belonging to the public-private partnership and integrated management approach option. The most cost-effective option is the public-private partnership of search and destroy, followed by the government-led public education campaign and the integrated approach. Also, as a part of this process, we did a sensitivity analysis just to test the robustness of our study and also determine whether or not we were on the right track. And we looked at 3 options. So we varied 3 variables. The initial population, once again, we said was about 6%, right? And so we said, what would happen if we increased that to 25%? Or what would happen if we increased that to 50%? And then effectiveness of management. For each management option, we said, what if we halved that to 0.5? And what if we double that by 2? And the discount rate. The central bank initially set the discount rate at 5%, so we said, let's decrease that to 3%. And then let's increase that by 7% and see what happens. So we played with those numbers, plugged it into the toolkit provided by Landcare, and we came up once again with our public-private partnership being the most preferred option, but also all of the other options were quite viable as well, and you can see that just by how closely the numbers were to each other. Mark?
And Casuarina is a big issue for us in the Bahamas. And so this isn't something that's just going to sit on the desk and collect dust. We'll submit this to the government and push that public-private partnership. And if I need to get out there with a chainsaw, or if Ingeria needs to get out there with a chainsaw, we need to bring over Adam and Pike, we'll import you guys to come help us.